If we look at where we are today, if we want to be very honest, it is of course politically less than ideal where we are today. But the focus of this government, myself included, is to win the war against the current pandemic, COVID-19. We are facing a crisis of health crisis and an economic crisis. So the continued focus of this government is towards, achieving what we've intended to achieve under the National Recovery Plan.
For practical terms, you will still need, parliamentary support. For example, to pass supply bills, you have a budget to pass later this year. So, would you be able to assure investors that you have that majority support going forward?
Thank you. Well, stability is important. We've shown that, for the past, decades of how since independent, how Malaysia politically have been very stable, and this has obviously opened Malaysia up for investments to come in. But going forward, this is challenges that we're facing today politically. Like I said, it's less than ideal. We need stability, and I hope that going forward, the political parties can work together, especially during this pandemic, where we are, like I said, facing a dual crisis, economic crisis as well as a health crisis. What we don't need is a political crisis.
I mean, from our reporting, from our reporters on the ground, and as well as from the commentary that we see, there seems to be a trust deficit in the public. Do you think you have to address that before you can, fully execute your national recovery plan?
Well, but when you say about trust deficit, I think at the end of the day, it's how we execute the plans that we have announced. Give an example, vaccination. People were also very skeptical when we first announced our vaccination strategy. We're saying that we can go up to 200, 300, 400,000 in a matter of weeks, and we have achieved that. But when we first announced that, obviously people were skeptical, and people thought that we couldn't achieve it. But similarly, when we talk about trust deficits, the other initiatives are also similar. So we need to prove that we can execute. So let's wait and see. I'm quite optimistic, although cautiously optimistic, that we can achieve what we set out to do, especially in combating the pandemic COVID-19.
We have had some industry groups recently voicing some concern about government policy, about the need for consistency. Is there any concern on your side about, perhaps capital flight or lack of confidence among investors?
Well, we're not seeing that. We've seen our external trade improve, and we also seen FDI improve. In fact, FDI improved in the first quarter was up by 50%. But of course, going forward, as the world economy has improved, we are, in a strong position to benefit from that being in a very open economy. Well, if you look at Malaysia, we have changes in government. Maybe last 5 years, we had 3 governments, but yet investors are still coming in because we have strong institutions in place, right? So I think that's key for Malaysia's success. Politics, yes, of course, to provide stability. People don't like uncertainty, but when you look at it, when government changes in Malaysia, policy don't change much, right? And this has been critical to the success of Malaysia when it comes to attracting investment.
I think there's some commentary that you are risk averse, averse to spending more, averse to more direct fiscal injections. Do you think you have been too cautious?
I don't think we are too cautious. When you look at deficit, for example, our deficit, the highest ever was in 2008, 2009. Our deficit at that time was around 6.7 to 6.8%, right? And even during the parliament session last year, when the budget was presented, I announced that the deficit target will be around 5.4%, right? And today, in February, I announced again it will be 6%. And with the recent stimulus packages that we've announced, I believe the deficit will go up between 6.5 to 7%. So it shows that the government is ready and to increase fiscal space should we need to support the economy and people.
Minister, we in Hong Kong have been had to see some difficult images, for example, of your country's white flag campaign, and you have addressed it recently as well. People going hungry and putting up white flags outside their homes. Does that signal that your packages are not working?
No, I don't believe so. If we look at this, we have, we addressed some of those issues by ensuring that we um, give all the elected representative allocation to support their constituency. In fact, the government itself has launched a food program, program, and we're working now with all segment of society, the NGOs, opposition, because it is tough times. You must remember, Bhavan, there will be pockets of our community that are obviously especially the vulnerable segment of society that still need help, and we will focus on that. But we've seen also that we have got another 10 billion ringgit of fiscal injection of cash support directly to Malaysians, and we have seen that close to 5.8 million Malaysians who have received this aid. I'm not saying that there might be pockets of people who we may miss out, but we are there to learn from our mistakes and making sure that everyone does get the support that is required.
Finally, Minister, do you expect that Malaysia will be open for business perhaps later this year? Some countries are talking about moving to an endemic policy. What about Malaysia?
Yes, the National Recovery Plan is broken into 4 phases: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. And phase 4 basically is back to the normal, the way we've seen the new normal, right? And we're quite optimistic by the rate of vaccination today. Malaysians who have been fully vaccinated has crossed the 15%, about 17% now. And we've seen that slowly as we move, many states have moved to phase 2 where more sectors of the economy have opened. And we are quite optimistic that in fact by end of October, we will be able to open most sectors of the economy based on the vaccination rate that we have achieved. So today, when we look at our projections, we are quite optimistic that by end of the year, we will go back to the normal. We have a systematic approach, and we want to safely open our economy and our social sectors as well.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Bhavan.